Hey guys, before we get into this video, I just want to share a couple things with you. Here's a couple bets that we had from last week. Here's one that we had. That's a pretty good one. And here's another one that we had. This one was obviously had Hockett by points. That was a round robin that I cashed out early on before the Hockett fight. Left like $700 on the table. Fucked up. And then obviously here's another one too from 2 weeks ago. That's almost 45x. So pay attention to these videos and definitely watch them. Welcome back to the Us vs. Them MMA channel. I'm your host Vince, and we're going to break down the preliminary fights that we have for the UFC Winnipeg card this weekend. There's some opportunities to make money on these prelim fights, but there's also some fights that we need to stay away from. So it's really important that you watch the video and get some advice for that and see the fights that are just kind of traps. Speaking of a fight that's kind of a trap, we have Marcio Barbosa versus Dennis Buzukja. That starts off the prelim fights. Barbosa right now is sitting at a minus 500 favorite, and then Buzukja is sitting at a plus 385 on the other side. So obviously he's a pretty sizable favorite, and he really should be. Right now he's riding a 4-fight win streak, a 4-fight knockout streak. This dude has the submission threat as well. So Barbosa deserves the respect that he's getting on the lines. But he's also making his debut. So it also makes me a little bit hesitant too on the other side of this, where a debut fighter is a 5-1 favorite. So definitely no value in the money line there at all. The thing about Barbosa that's really easy to find out about him is he's a pressure fighter. He's got 17 pro MMA wins, and 16 wins are by finish in the first round. And of those finishes, like 14 or 15 of them are by way of knockout. So this dude wants to walk you down. He's got a short, stocky frame, so he's going to throw his punches tight, and he's going to throw with big power. He's got that good center of gravity, so when he connects, he's going to land, and it's going to really, destroy whatever he lands. So that's really what helps him in fights. That's where he's going to really lean on against a guy like Dennis Buzukja. Buzukja on the other side, he's got more UFC experience, obviously. He's been in the UFC for a little bit longer. What is he, 1-3 or something like that? 1-3 in the UFC. He's been there and done that a little bit more so than Barbosa. Maybe he's got a craftiness advantage. He also might have an advantage in the cardio. Barbosa, obviously he blitzes forward pretty heavy in the first round, and that doesn't really lend well for round 3. He doesn't really leave much in the gas for that. So, and we have seen that in past fights for him. So, I think the obvious call for this fight is Barbosa get it done by knockout. That line is sitting at minus 180 right now, and I would fade that hard. If you want to fade Barbosa, you can go with Buzukja by KO or decision. Obviously, the KO prop's there with a ground and pound late in the round 3 if he just kind of gasses out. Barbosa just gasses out. But the decision prop's there too if he's able to steal rounds 2 and 3. So that double chance prop sitting at plus 450. But to be honest with you, I don't see Buzukja doing that. I'd fade this fight entirely. Next up, we have Julian LeBlanc versus Robert Valentin. Right now, LeBlanc is sitting at a plus 132 slight underdog, and Valentin is at a minus 156 favorite. This fight, we got LeBlanc on the one side making his UFC debut. We don't really know anything about him because he's not really coming from the contender. He's not coming from the contender series. He doesn't come from a big fight camp. He didn't come from like a big fight, promotion before this. So he's been on the regional scene. We just don't really know anything about him. And then on the other side of this, we got Valentin, who's 0-3 in the UFC, and we've seen him get dominated in all 3 of those fights. So outside of, these fighters being Canadian, I don't really see how this fight makes much sense at all. The one thing that makes me question this fight is Valentin just being here in general. He's 0-3 in the promotion, hasn't looked really good at all. So it just makes me wonder why he's here. Typically when a fighter goes 0-2 and 0-3 and they get dominated, they get the door. So is there something that we don't really know about the guy that, where he's a sneaky a sneaky good fighter? Or is he just a sacrificial lamb for LeBlanc to get, a win as a Canadian fighter on a Canadian card? I'm kind of leaning more towards the latter on this one, but obviously we're going to find out. There's a lot of unknowns in this fight, so honestly, outside of going for a long shot, there's a lot of stuff to fade on this one. Like I said, we don't know anything about LeBlanc in general, and Valentin, we just don't really know too much about him. He's been smushed every time he's fought in the UFC. So the only thing that I would sprinkle that I think is worth looking at is LeBlanc to get it done by KO. He's 4 professional KOs, and he doesn't have a whole bunch of wins. He's got 10 wins, and 4 of them come by KO. So he's got the KO possibility. And then you got Valentin on the other side, who has found the way out by getting knocked out 3 different times. So what does he have? 6 losses. He's got 6 losses, and half of them are by knockout. So there's a possibility of that happening. LeBlanc getting a knockout at plus 700. Obviously, LeBlanc is not a type of fighter that looks for knockouts for the line being that long, but it's worth a sprinkle, or at least if you want to bet on this one, it's worth looking at. Next up, we have Tanner Boser versus Gokhan Sarakam. Boser is a plus 136 underdog, and then Sarakam is a minus 162. Here's another fight that doesn't really make much sense outside of Boser just being Canadian. Boser's already had a career in the UFC. He went 5-5 in the promotion, which, not super good at heavyweight. He's fought bottom of the barrel heavyweight competition for the most part. Obviously he does have some good fights. He did fight Tom Aspinall or somebody. But anyway, no, he didn't fight Aspinall. He fought Cyril Gane. But, anyways, he didn't have he had an okay stint in the UFC and got cut in 2023. And then he came back last year, had a regional fight, and now he's fighting here at the Winnipeg card. So it just doesn't make any fucking sense. You got Sarakam on the other side. He's making his debut at 35. What's going on with that? He had a little bit of a stint in Bellator. He went 5-2 in Bellator. But again, here we are with a fight where it just doesn't really make much sense. Here again, we have the method of victory lines that are kind of scattered all throughout. The one thing I did notice, though, this is a heavyweight fight, obviously. And the money lines for the KOs is pretty, that's a lot juicier than it normally is for a heavyweight fight. You got Sarakam right now that's sitting at plus 230 for the KO, and then Boser for a KO is sitting at plus 500. Again, like, these guys aren't exactly known for their KO power, but it's a heavyweight fight, and both these dudes do have KO power. So Boser's pretty tough. He's durable. He proved that in his first UFC stint, but he did have some damage during that time, and that was a while ago. Here we are in 2026, so things could change. So what I would do for this fight, if I was you picking this fight, whatever I would pick, I would just pick your favorite fighter between the two, or the one you think is going to win, and choose that fighter to get it done by KO. Like I said, for a heavyweight fight, the lines for them to get it done by KO is pretty decent. Next fight up, we have Melissa Croden versus Daria Zeleniakova. Croden right now is sitting at minus 146 favorite, and Zeleniakova is a plus 124 underdog. This fight seems pretty straightforward to me. I think obviously both these girls are really big for the division. They're both 5'9", so they have big frames for 135, especially in WMMA. So big for the division. They're both used to having that size advantage that they used to impose on their opponents. So 5'9" fighters versus 5'9" fighter, big frame versus big frame. But I think between the two, it's Croden has just the physicality advantage. Again, with WMA, I think that goes a long way, and especially it's going to go a long way in this fight. I think both girls are going to land. They're going to land good shots, but Croden's just going to land the bigger, cleaner shots. I think she has the potential to leave marks on Zeleniakova's face, and, damage is supposed to trump all. I think it's very likely that this fight goes to the decision. I know that's really basic to say for WMMA, but both these girls neither of these girls are known for their grappling skills. They don't have a lot of submissions, either of them. And both of them do have knockouts on their records, but between the two of them, they've only been knocked out one time, and that was when Zeleniakova was KO'd by Melissa Mullins on the regional scene. And she actually ran that back against Mullins in the UFC and avenged that loss. So they know how to keep themselves safe in there, and they know how to not get knocked out. So the likelihood of this going to the scorecards is pretty good. Something tells me that Croden's going to get it done this weekend, and obviously she's probably going to get it done by decision. That line is sitting at plus 160, so there's okay value in that. But for me, I'm going to fade this fight. Next up, we got J.J. Aldridge versus Jamie Lynn Horth. Horth is sitting at a minus 148 favorite, and Aldridge is sitting at a plus 126 underdog. One important thing to note for sure is that this line has shifted more dramatically than any other line this week. The first line that I had recorded was minus 225 for Horth as a favorite and plus 172 for Aldridge. But now Aldridge is sitting at a plus 126. So pretty sizable shift in the line. Obviously, we see a lot of money coming in for Aldridge, and that's making me take a good look at this. I think the line might have overcorrected on this one a little bit. I definitely had in my notes that Aldridge was getting a little bit disrespected on the line, and before the decision prop for Aldridge is plus 195, which was looking pretty good, but now it's kind of overcorrected a little bit to plus 170. And then, honestly, Horth she's a more physical fighter. She did have a decent KO her last fight against Teresa Bleda. Bleda did look pretty compromised in that fight, but at the end of the day, she showed up. She, locked herself in the cage and she got knocked out. So, I think between the two, the finishing potentials lie more towards Jamie Lynn Horth. So I'm leaning more towards the favorite still in this fight. I think he could get her at a little bit better of a price tag. But the reality is, I don't really have a good read on this fight, and I would just fade this one entirely. Next fight up, we have John Castaneda versus Mark Vogelton. Castaneda is sitting at a minus 132, and Vogelton is sitting at a plus 112. When the lines open up, Vogelton opened up as a favorite, so we've seen the lines kind of shift. They shifted, and now Vogelton is as the underdog, and they keep shifting a little bit more and more towards Castaneda. So they corrected itself again on this fight. I feel like I'm repeating myself. I'm sorry, but the line, like I said, beginning of the week, there might have been value in Castaneda, but right now there might be some value now in Vogelton. Vogelton, we know, coming from that Contender Series fight against Martinetti, one of the craziest fights you'll ever watch. If you get a chance, go back and watch that fight. It was fucking wild. But one thing he showed in that fight is he's tough and durable, but that he's also very hittable. This dude's got a very short frame for this division. He keeps his punches tight. He has to keep his punches tight. But no matter what, if he's coming into the range where he's able to hit, he's able to get hit too. Like I said, I think the line shifted and corrected itself. I'm leaning more towards Castaneda to get it done this weekend. And Vegas says the most likely outcome is for him to get it done by decision. That's sitting at plus 200. I really do kind of like the value in that. That's pretty decent value. But there's also something about the value of him getting it done by submission. That's sitting at plus 550 right now. I could definitely see a possibility where Castaneda touches him up a little bit and Vogelton is in a striking situation that he just doesn't really like, and he takes a bad shot. And Castaneda just makes him pay for it. So, that submission prop right now sitting at plus 550, that's definitely worth taking a look at. Lastly, we got Jamie Serra versus John Yanis. Serra sitting at a minus 260 favorite, and Yanis is at a plus 215 underdog. Look, I'll be honest with you guys. I don't really know much about these fighters. Yanis is making his own one in the UFC. He looked terrible in his first fight against Bashi, where Bashi just smothered him, took him down, smothered him, got his choke. Typical Bashi style. But to be honest with you, I look at a fight like that, and I look at a fighter like Yanis, and I think he's probably going to be looking to, definitely at least make a statement this weekend, win or lose. I think he's going to definitely go out there and let it all hang out. He just seems like that type of fighter, and he's got a really bad taste in his mouth from that debut fight. Serra, on the other hand, we've seen him. He's fought at his last couple fights were at 150 at a catch weight. Before that, he had like 3 or 4 or 5 fights in a row at 145. He didn't fight He hasn't fought 135 since 2015 or 2019. So it's been a good while since he's been at this weight class. I don't know how the weight cut went for him, so it's worth checking into for sure. But I don't know. It could play a factor for sure with his cardio in rounds 2 and 3. If you want to bet on this fight and you want to lean with Serra, there's something about his submission game that's really leaning towards him getting it done this weekend. I think the pressure and the style of Yanis could definitely work against him in the striking, but it could also work against him in the grappling too. Like I said, Serra, if that's how you say his name, his submission game is actually decent. It's pretty smooth. So I think the submission threat's there. That prop is sitting at plus 200 right now. Also for Serra to get it done by points, that's plus 230. I just don't see this fight going the distance though, so I'd fade that one. And then on the other side, if you're leaning towards Yanis to get it done, I would just go straight money line. The method of victory picks, he could knock him out, he could get it done by points. At the end of the day, you're just straight up guessing. But the money line form right now is plus 215, and I think that's decent value. I think this guy has something to prove this weekend. All right, that's all the breakdowns I got for you guys. I feel like I fucking ramble a lot. This is my first week back. I'm really excited to be here, but I also got to clean this shit up. So stop by for the next video. I got 3 parlays for you. I already locked them in. I'm really excited about them. Like I said, we smacked the last 2 weeks. I'm going to post that right here again, maybe. But stop by for the video. I want to keep the streak going. We got 3 in a row. That's what I want to keep going. So, again, I'm done talking, and I'm the fuck out of here.